enough of the science and the medicine, now for real life. We've got a panel assembled here, and let me turn this over to Girl Gone Blind, Maria Johnson.
Thank you, Lissa. My name is Maria Johnson, and yes, as many of you might know, I'm also the girl behind the Girl Gone Blind blog. So if you've read that, that's all coming from me. Anyway, and if you haven't read it, what is with that? You need to read it. Anyway, I am moderating today's patient panels, and our morning panels are some gentlemen who are part of the LHON community. And what they're going to give us today is a little bit of insight on living with LHON. They've all been affected for different amounts of time. They live in different areas, but we all have one thing in common, and that's LHON. So I'm going to start with our gentleman here on my left. His name is Michael Patelis. He is from, oh my gosh, how do you say it? Alpharetta, Georgia. Got it. And he's been affected for 25 years. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael to tell his story living with LHON.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, I'm glad I could celebrate my 25th anniversary like this. This is great. So yes, I'm 40 years old, and I lost my vision. It started when I was 15 years old, and it started actually right when I turned 15. I noticed my left eye was a little bit foggy. It was summer between 9th grade and 10th grade, and went to the doctor, and he looked at me and looked in my eyes. It was just an ophthalmologist, and said, "You know, don't see anything. You're fine. Don't worry about it. It'll get better." I was like, okay, that's fine. And then about 4 months later, I guess, is when actually it was October of my sophomore year in high school. I remember I was coming out playing football, coming out of the locker room at a game, and tried to look across the field at the scoreboard, and I noticed that's when I first realized there's something wrong. My right eye is going bad too. And went back to the doctor, and they still didn't see anything, and he still couldn't give me any diagnosis of what it was. And at that point, he told my parents it was probably from stress, and that I should probably go see a psychologist. And I wasn't stressed about anything. Actually, I was just very fortunate, just and with where I was in my life, and so there was nothing really stressing me out. On top of the fact that I was losing my vision, that really didn't even bother me too much. But so by the time I was in December is when I had the full impact and lost most of my vision in my left eye and in my right eye, and with no official diagnosis. So I was going to a psychologist once a week at that time, and actually did that for about a year. And I was meeting with this guy once a week, and we would talk about how my day was, what I felt like, and everything. And he was telling, talking to me, and in the meantime, he told my parents there's really nothing wrong with him. He's fine, especially considering the circumstances. So, my parents bought me a car thinking maybe that would work, and that, it just sat in the driveway, it didn't do anything. So finally, about a year later, I ended up at Emory at a neuro-ophthalmologist, and sure enough, I got diagnosed with Leber's. So it actually took me about a year to get officially diagnosed. And then, throughout high school, it was okay. I had a great support community with all my friends and family. And then I went to college, and college was good, and I did fine. I was in a fraternity, and I made good grades, and but I still missed out socially, and that was because of my own lack of confidence and my own fears. So I did miss out a lot socially in college, and in hindsight that I really should have. Anyway, so graduated college and moved back home with my parents, and I wasn't sure what kind of job I could do, what I could do, or so I took a job on a telephone sales at a local technology company, and I wasn't sure what I could do with my life. So I was there for probably 3 or 4 years, and I was doing good, making good progress, but still felt like I was afraid of what I could do with my life. And also I still had that social anxiety or lack of confidence, I guess. And then fortunately, I was able to meet my wife, and I think that's what's really changed my life and given me the confidence. And from that point forward, I was able to really have the confidence to move forward with my career and everything else in my life, and not let labors hold me back or be afraid of trying anything. And so now I have a nice career, I would say, and I'm in sales. I travel around the United States, different parts of the world. I give presentations, all from memory to large groups of people. And it's in hindsight, when I look back at some of the things that I could have done in my life and I should have done in my life because labors was holding me back, because I didn't have the confidence or I didn't try. I think that's, everybody, you just gotta just go out there and do your best and not let labors hold you back. I've talked to several people on the phone, for example, they were afraid to have children, and I have 2 beautiful children as well. And it's tough, it's very hard, but I guess my message is I wouldn't let anything hold you back, and that your life is going to be fine, and you can still achieve everything that you want to have. And in general, I think labors has actually had a positive effect on my life because it's given me perspective and also helped me as far as being able to empathize with other people and understand that everybody has their challenges, and it's up to me as a person to overcome those and just do everything I can to be the best person I can.
Thank you, Michael. And so pretty much what you're saying is behind every good man is a super awesome woman. That's what I'm taking away from that. So anyway, kudos to the wife. So thank you, Michael, for telling us about your experience living with LHON. And I'm going to introduce to our next panelist, who is Matt Rajam. He has been affected for 15 years, and he is from Fairfax, Virginia. So he's local, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Matt.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, and thanks for having it very close. I didn't have to commute very far. But also, I have a great wife. I've been married for 8 years now. I also have 3 little children, ages 4, 4, and almost 2. So that keeps me busy, but the thing I would like to focus on is how running has affected my life with being visually impaired and having Leber's. Last year, I started the journey to see if I could make the U.S. Paralympic track and field team. Me and my wife discussed this for many hours, and we wanted to see if I could prove to my kids and others that having vision loss can't affect this. So my journey doesn't start last year. It starts 15 years ago when Leber's onset happened. I was a sophomore in college, living the dream, going to school, running. I was running cross country and track, and over a 6-month period, I would say I could call it the madness period. You don't know what's happening, the craziness, no one's knowing what. You could probably insert any of our names into this period, and it'd probably be all the same. But I continued. I wanted life to stay the same, so I continued to run track, and I was able to still do it. I could tell the lines. I could tell where things were. I'd only occasionally run into a few hurdles, literally. But junior year came around, and for all that you don't know, cross country is off-roads, running, trails, roads all around campus. So I trained all summer like nothing has changed, because I wanted nothing to change. I wanted things to still be the same, even though everything did change. So I'm not sure who the ingenious one that had decided to have cross-country time trials on freshman move-in day. But so a street that should have been a downhill street with nothing on it was covered with carts, trucks, and people moving luggage. So moving at a pretty fast clip, I ended up clipping my knee on a tailgate of a truck. So after that, the school thought I was a liability. I disagreed with them, but I was picking and choosing my fights. I was still learning how to live with Liebers, and after much discussing, they asked me to quit the team. I said, at the time, that's not what I wanted to do. So after much negotiation, they allowed me to still coach and train, but not race. But I was picking and choosing my battles. I continued on the track season and made an agreement with my track coach that I would always run with a partner when I was off campus. I didn't always follow it, but it's part of life, learning to live with Liebers and being a visually impaired runner. So I continued, ran my senior year of college, had fun, graduated Westminster College. The part I guess I have to miss out is I ended up switching my major. I was chemistry, pre-dental. There's not too many blind dentists out there. So the next big adventure came with me as I ended up moving to Duquesne University, downtown Pittsburgh, where you guys were all at last year. But this is a major city, and running has become my coper, my stress coper, with the whole vision loss, school, everything. So I had to learn to adapt. How does a visually impaired runner run in the city? I found quickly that you could not run in the downtown Triangle District. It just became too impossible. I found trails. I found out where the poles were on the trails and where railroad crosses were, and I memorized all these and came up with safe routes that I could run around the area, around Duquesne, and where not to go and where to go. But these are all things I had to encounter that a normal runner wouldn't have to encounter. So after grad school, got the MBA, moved down here to DC. So I wanted to meet friends. How do you meet friends? Find things that are similar. So I joined a running club. But I was still worried about the liability issue that happened at Westminster. So I went to the track workouts, but I didn't tell anybody that I was visually impaired, especially the coach, till 6 months later. I hid it unless I needed a ride somewhere. They had a thing called Saturday Long Run, which I showed up for the first time, which I found out that day, it was a 16-mile run. I'm like, oh boy. Through the streets of DC, through trails and everywhere in a city that I don't even know. At least Pittsburgh, I knew where I was because I knew it before vision loss. I'm totally lost trying to find out. I made it through 12 miles of that run and praying I'd get back to the starting point or the finish, depending where we're at, Iwo Jima that day. But as I found out, I loved it and ended up going back the next week and the week after. I met my wife, who was also a marathon runner, and the club ended up being marathon basically focused and pushed me to say, okay, you're going to run a marathon. They convinced me to, actually this was my third, but that's another story and a half, to actually train to run the Marine Corps Marathon. During that, I had my usual incidents of maybe running into something. Actually, my wife was running with a different running club and almost ran into a utility pole, and her girlfriends go, wasn't that your boyfriend? Yeah, it happens. But so during this period, every marathon runner has the ultimate goal to go to Boston. This is a qualification time only, and as training for Marine Corps, everybody talked about going to Boston. So I got the urge, started doing the research. Oh, this sounds neat. Found out it was a 5 hours marathon for a visually impaired to go to Boston, but a 3 hour and 10 minutes for fully sighted. So I said, I'm going to do it without the disability. We're going to do it the right way if we're going to do it. So the first time I tried in 2007, I just missed it. About a quarter mile away, I heard my talking watch say 3:10. I was about ready to cry, even though I was just about ready to hit a marathon. My wife, my brother, and I, 2 years later, decided, let's sign up again. We trained, we ran with the running club, and made it with a 3:08 and time to spare. I figured out, how does a visually impaired guy pace? Talking watches don't give splits. They don't know where you're at. I found a guy at the start with highlighter yellow and a GPS watch saying he's running a 3:10. So we hung out together for about 16 miles. That was my first unofficial experience with guide running. So I made it to Boston, all excited. Been training for 16 weeks. 2 weeks before I got to Boston, I got an email from the BAA, Boston Athletic Association. Please, would you make sure you come to the award ceremony at the end? If your qualification time would put you in one of the top and the high ranking out of the visually impaired. I knew there was a visually impaired category, but knew nothing about it. So I ran the Boston Marathon, great experience. Got to the end, went to the award ceremony. I ended up finishing third out of all the visually impaired. This was such a neat experience. We were in a room like this, but surrounded by cameras, lights, press, runner's world. I was up on stage with some of the top marathoners in the world, Olympians, Ryan Halls. This was like the superstars of marathons, and they were giving me an award. I thought I was on cloud nine. After that, literally minutes after the award ceremony, a group came up to me, Massachusetts Association of the Blind, and this was my first introduction to running as a disabled athlete. Would you want to run our 5K next month? Wrong thing to ask a guy who just ran a marathon. 2 weeks later, they contacted me, would you like to come up? We're running visually impaired runners throughout the world to come to our 5K. And I said, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. I ended up, they put us up for the entire weekend and met visually impaired runners from Boston, United States, France, Germany, Kenya, Mexico. Out of that race, there was about 1,000 runners. The top 10, 9 out of the top 10 runners were blind or visually impaired. It was a neat experience. It was a wake-up call, and it was also, I wasn't alone out there being a visually impaired runner. I'd go back to Boston the following year for the marathon and finish second. And again, met more people. I ran with MAB's, Massachusetts Association of Blind's team with a vision that year, and they took care of us. Again, the camaraderie, learning that there is a network of visually impaired runners out there, that I'm not alone, and there are other people trying to push themselves to that ability. So after Boston, a few months later, my wife got a phone call. We thought it was a solicitation. She's about ready to hang up, thinking it was a telemarketer. The gentleman on the phone goes, no, I'm a visually impaired runner too. You just said the key words. She hands me the phone. I find out it's a guy from United States Blind Athletes, volunteer coordinator. Hey, I'm having the second annual United States Blind Marathon Championships out in Sacramento. Would you come out? Sure, I didn't say that right away, but let me talk it over with my wife. We decided to go out to this event, and it was a great experience meeting other visually impaired runners that had different abilities and different pursuits, from any of them trying to race or just get to the finish, proving that vision loss doesn't affect what they can do. I'd go back in 2012 and last year in 2014. But a wake-up call for me was I've been still trying to do this all on my own. I've been still trying to prove to myself that I can do it without help. 2012, with much encouragement by the volunteer guide coordinator, I'm going to give you guides. 2 guides that will split the course with you. You won't have to worry about anything. They'll tell you when water's coming. They'll give you splits. They'll know where you are on the course. And you just have to run. Still being a little cocky, and I can do it on my own thing. Said, okay, I'll take it. Smartest decision I ever made that day. Race day, it was 60 degrees, tropical storm rains, and 40-mile-per-hour winds. This would be tough for a guy that could see. And then I was squinting the entire time. So between these 2 guides, they got to me to the finish with a really good time. So it was a wake-up call that I don't have to do this on my own. So after my son was born, 2013, I started thinking, what is the next calling? What am I supposed to be doing to push myself further? Is it just be a dad? Is that good enough with 3 little kids? And I saw the Winter Paralympics. I knew in 2012 I had the qualification time in the marathon. After much talk with my wife, she said, why don't you try? What are you going to do, lose? Good point. So we decided to make a journey to see if I could make the U.S. Paralympic team in track and field. And there's 2 things I'm trying to do through this journey. And is one, I want to prove to my 3 little kids that being blind doesn't affect or define you or what you can do, and I would like to do it through that. The second thing is, hopefully I can convince a few other people during this journey that it's being blind or visually impaired, it doesn't affect what you can do. You can be out there winning races, You just need some assistance. So tomorrow I leave for LHON University to compete in the United States Paralympics National Track and Field Championships. Hopefully you guys can follow some of my journey. My wife's got a blog. Everybody's got a blog, I guess. It's called daddysblindambition.com. It's her perspective of a visually impaired dad and marathon runner and distance runner training through her eyes, pun intended. But so if there's two things I'd like you to get from my journey for the last 15 years being visually impaired is, one, I think everybody needs their outlet. It's maybe sports, but to cope with the vision loss, have your outlet to help with the stress and the mental with it. I highly recommend United States Blind Athletes because there's a lot of different programs they have, from biking to rowing to introduction to competing at high levels to just getting active. The other thing is I would like to hopefully you can get out of my journey is I hope that Libras doesn't define you. It's a part of us, it's a part of our story, but don't let it define you. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You really pushed through to get to where you are today. I mean, literally just kept running. And, good luck at the championships. We hope the best for you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Haas. He has been affected for 12 years, and he is from Annapolis, Maryland. So I'm going to give it over to Brian.
Hey, hi, good morning. So I've been, as Maria said, I've been affected for about 11, 12 years now. About the age of 18, 19, 20, was diagnosed in 2003. Went through all the tests that most people go through, the spinal taps, the blood test, and then they finally come up with LHON. At first, you have your down moments, of course, and then I said, okay, no, I'm not going to take this lying down. I'm going to, I took a semester off of college because it happened my first semester of college. I said, nope, I'm not taking this lying down. I'm going to get back in school and finish. Whereas I could have just given up and all that. So went back to college, earned my degree, my undergraduate degree in social work, and started working. I said, I can do anything that anybody else can do. I have not let this hold me back. Started working in the human services field, doing case management for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I do not have anybody else in my family who's been diagnosed with this. So it was something, had to tackle, and found the LHON community, which has been great. I'm actually, in the fall, will be starting my master's degree in social work to further my career and so forth. My advice to people is do not let LHON define you. That does not define you as a person. Don't let it hold you back, as many of these other people up here and in the room have said. It's not an end all, but you just have to keep on moving and keep on going and do what you would normally do. You can do anything. It's just there's different ways of doing things. So I'm glad this LHON community has come together, and as I said, it has been a big help. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And one of the things Brian has said to me before, you have to have a good sense of humor, right, Brian?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Good sense of humor. You got to take it in stride, and you got to laugh a lot, which, we all probably do. We know that laughter is good medicine. Anyway, thank you, Brian. We're going to open it up, and if there's anybody out there that has a question for any of our panelists, we would welcome that now. If anybody has anything, someone has to look for us because we can't see if anyone has a question. I don't see anybody. All right, no,
Question.
just
Each of you have hinted at what you do or your educational background. I'd be interested to know what you actually do, your jobs, and how that relates to you and your self-identity.
Michael, you want to start?
Sure.
No.
Okay, so I'm in the technology industry, and I've been working for 18 years now. And that's one thing about the technology industry is it continues to evolve, so I have to continually learn and teach myself different technologies. So I started in the PC industry and moved into the server industry and the storage industry, and my specialty has been taking technologies and pitching them to companies like HP, IBM, Dell, Intel, and selling them to them, and from both a technical, business, and engineering perspective. So I've kind of migrated that now into the entertainment industry, and have oddly enough, why the blind guy's in the TV business, I don't know, but I work for a company, and I'm in charge of technology development and partnerships for this app that allows you to stream content from your phone to a TV. And so that's why I continue to do sales and business development in the technology industry.
Thank you. On the school side, I mentioned I was at Duquesne University and I got an MBA, which I found very key into getting a job and filtering out, proving, hey, you're blind, but oh, you got an MBA or you have a master's, so okay, you must be able to handle it. Specifically, do schedule, I do financial analysis / program management. What does that mean to you? The quick version is I work for a company right now that does schedule analysis or cost estimation. They bring me in and I say, example, you're gonna build an air traffic control tower. What is the work that needs to be done for that team, and plan it out in a detailed, integrated schedule so people can detail plan the work, what they're gonna need to do to get from point A to point B. So it has nothing to do really with the MBA. MBA was more of a filter to prove that you can be learned. Most of my job I learned on site with over the last 10 years of working.
So, as I said, I earned my undergraduate degree in social work, so I'm doing case management for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I'm doing a lot of assessing of clients on the phone, in person, doing a lot of resource coordination, looking up resources that they might need, some that I use myself for transportation resources and so forth. So I'm doing home visits. I'm going to different facilities and having to travel there. A lot of my time is spent on data entry into the computer, writing up plans for my clients and so forth. So on the computer side, I use Zoom Text to enables me to view it. I use CCTVs, and I've actually found a few CCTVs who my local rehabilitation center has helped me to locate and get, where they're more portable and they fold down. Yes, they are still slightly heavy to carry around, but I needed that for my job because I'm out in the community, I'm traveling around. So yes, there is a lot of travel, there's a lot of computer work, but whatever your interest or future career fields might be, it can be learned just like anybody else, and there's ways to work around things. I mean, I don't think it would be the greatest career field to be a pilot or something like that, or a cab driver. I mean, but there's plenty of other great career fields that we can do. But besides those, so keep the windows open. Yeah.
Good question. Is there another one? One more? Yeah.
Hi, thanks for your story. It's really good, great to hear all of you. And Brian, you talked about using Zoom text. Michael and Matt, you both have kind of technical jobs, especially Matt, like doing financial stuff. I'm not sure what your visual acuity is, but how do you get through those reams of information and work with that?
So, being that I've been visually impaired now for 25 years, I've learned to adapt a lot, and I haven't been a good adapter of technology, even though I'm in the technology industry. So, oddly enough, I use a reading system called my wife, and she reads a lot to me. That's
I already said behind every good woman, seriously. I mean, right there again.
so yeah. It's everything I do is audible as far as learning different technologies and trying to educate myself on a continuous basis about the industry I'm in. But like I said, most of it's just audible wise as far as listening.
The answer to the question more directly for me is the technology, getting the right equipment to do your job. And that is an individual question for each. And actually, with each job I've had, the technology has changed in position. But right now, I found the few things that have helped me so far is, one, having a 17-inch laptop with a Zoom text on it. That gives me the portability to move wherever I need and take that and still be accessible. Most of the electronic and financial and analysis data I can read or use Zoom text to read back to me, to do the analysis or be able to communicate in meetings and follow presentations. I do have a portable CCTV, and I do have a large CCTV, which I've started relying on less and less because most of the information and analysis I do is in electronic format. So having that portability, and I do have a docking station, which I do like. So when I'm actually at a main office location, it gives me a bigger monitor. But I found just having a laptop with Zoom text and an iPhone. I didn't think I wanted it years ago. I don't know how I could live without it and do my job right now with the talking capability. So it's the technology, and one of the things I learned, I mentioned before, is it's gonna change too. With technology changing and jobs changing, you may have different requirements in a different position, and you have to be able to adapt and figure out a new way to do things. And I've found that technology and figuring out the right combination which works for you.
Good. All right, Lissa, our timekeeper, how are we doing? Oh, she's back there with a question. Is there another question? All right, another question?
This is just a more everyday living question. Like in family life, I know Michael and Matt, you both said you had children. Are you ever with them by yourself, and how do you keep track of them as they're 2-year-olds running around, or?
I guess I'll start with this because mine are, I have 3 under 4 right now. I guess 3 under 5, I take that back. Yes, I'm constantly left home alone with them. I don't know any other difference. My wife travels for work, and we both, again, need time separate to keep things functioning. She needs to go to the grocery store, things I can't do largely. I can do, but not get the big loads. So yes, we know how to work it. I will take them outside and play. I'll go on walks with them, but I keep them in my field of vision. I found that wearing actually some sunglasses give me about 5 more yards of vision than when I don't have sunglasses on. But they know to stay near me. I know to stay with them, and the 2-year-old I keep strapped down. But yes, it is tough. When the twins were very little, I had hard time telling them they're fraternal, but I had a hard time telling them apart, being little babies. Which one's Emily? Which one's Marissa? But yes, it'd be like any other family, normal circumstances. I'm left alone with them. But one quick short story, and then I'll pass it over. So my wife was out of country for work, and we have a nanny because it makes more financial and logical sense with me not driving. And we had a snow in here, and DC shuts down. My nanny texts me, Matt, what are you going to do? How are you going to feed the baby? I'm like, I can feed the baby food, but I'm not sure. It might be all over his face, but I can still get them out. But she was all worried, thinking me being visually impaired wouldn't be able to feed him. But yes, just like any other father. There you go.
Yeah, and my children are 7 and 3. Girl Piper 7 and Nicholas 3. They're right back there. And I stay alone with them, and we actually go places by ourselves, especially with Uber. Yes, it is very difficult. Like Matt mentioned, is keeping them within your line of sight. My daughter, now that she's 7, she very much understands that I don't see well, and she's been very helpful and learned how to help me. So I think that's, that the children understand, and they're there to help too. Yes, it's challenging, and we laugh a lot, but we do whatever we can. A funny story, a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I was making a cup of coffee and had the coffee pot running, and then all of a sudden I go over there to get it, and I realize it's all spilling all over, and I call my wife over, and she's just laughing, and then my daughter Piper says, Dad, you put the coffee cup upside down. So it's yeah, and that's just user error. That's not even visual impairment. I could have felt that the top was, but
I've done that.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the kids are actually very helpful, and they understand.
Great. All right, so time check. One more question.
I think all of you had mentioned that onset came on when you were in college. Did the colleges or universities do anything to help you, after you discovered what, the labors?
I actually lost my vision in high school. And so my entire sophomore year of high school, even though I grew up in a suburb of Atlanta, they actually didn't know what to do with me. So my sophomore year of high school, I had, they did their best, but I really didn't have official support until my junior year of high school. And at that time, then the county got me everything enlarged and on audio tape and got me the social mobility training that I needed. And that continued quite a bit also into college as well. So I went to the University of Georgia and had all the assistance that I needed, from getting all my books on audio tape and testing services and note takers in the college environment. And most colleges I've done 3 different programs, have all been very supportive and all have the resources available to assist you in every way that you need.
I got lucky at Westminster College. I may have said some negative things with running, but the school-wise, I got very lucky. The head of the disability department became like a second mother to me, helping me out socially, academically, and psychologically at the time. The school was very accommodating, helping me out with readers. They provided people that would read tests to me in separate accommodations, people that would actually, at the time, 15 years ago, the scanning software to read books back were slow as ever. So they actually got people who would volunteer to scan my books and what other things, without even asking. They put Zoom text on all the entire network computers, so all I had to get on to log into the network and figure out how to open Zoom text, but I could go into any computer lab and open Zoom text. It was still a new experience for them because there was only one other, actually 100% blind individual at the school, so we were both kind of in the same boat. But I was told later that many, they have, for a very small school, many other visually impaired, not many, but I think there was 3 or 4 after I graduated were enrolled in campus. So on the academic side, they did great. On the running side, that's another story, but I got lucky because of some of the personalities that were there that helped me.
Brian?
The first school I went to, a local community college I went to, they were excellent. Anything that I needed, anything that I wanted that would help me academically, they were great with accommodating. When I got to my university that I went to, I definitely struggled. I really had to up my advocacy skills for myself, and because I would constantly get, request my textbooks in the allotted time, and I would be a month or two into classes and still didn't have my textbooks. So it was constantly putting me behind. And I still got decent grades without my textbooks, thank goodness. But, I think if you experience that, but it's a school that you want to stick with, advocating for yourself is definitely key. So, I've had the good and the bad. As I said, I'll be starting my master's degree in the fall. Because I've struggled with getting disability supports in the past, I'm already starting that process and actually starting it early to try to make that as seamless as possible. So it is possible. It's just, if you struggle with it, you just have to, keep on moving with it and say, I need this, get it to me. You have to get it to me, But overall, it seems most people have a good experience, so, yeah.
Great. All right, well, great questions, everyone. And we're going to switch out our panel now. And thank you to all three of you. I think they did a great job. Thank you. Okay, well, as I already stated before our first panel, we have three more gentlemen here who are going to give us that insight into living with LHON. And again, different ages, different amount of time affected, and of course they will elaborate on all of that as well. First speaker we have is Sean Browning. He is from Atlanta, Georgia, and he's been affected for 5 years. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean.
Okay, so I'm Sean Browning, and I've been affected for 5 years, like Maria said. Just try to give I'm more of a late onset, so I was about 30 years old. It was the summer of my 30th birthday when I started to have the vision loss, and I was in the middle of a career. So I'm an engineer by training, and I was maybe 7 years into a career where I was traveling to various manufacturing facilities, and the job was very visual in nature. I have to look around and see things. You notice things on the wall, or you notice a hammer out of place, and it starts to give you clues about what's going on in the world. And so, when the vision loss started to happen, I had to really kind of consider what my next move was going to be. So I thought, right? If I think, though, about where I ended up and like the journey that I took to get to where I am today and how I've adapted, I look at it as a positive. I think it kind of sparked some things with me where I was kind of on cruise control with my career at the time, it felt like. Now I've got a lot more interest in things that I've gone and been able to learn. So at first I thought, well, gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this again. I'm traveling around the country and renting a car and driving a couple hours out to the middle and nowhere and seeing these factories. I've got to do something else, is what I thought. I can't keep doing it. And I thought, well, gosh, am I going to, there's the dark times you think, am I going to have to go on disability? And can I continue in this working world even? I considered some different careers. I got some limited support from the Department of Labor in Georgia for vocational rehabilitation. But eventually I started to learn to use a computer again. I mean, that was the first thing that was crazy. Is like, how do I do my job if I can't even see the screen on the computer? Learn Zoom text, learn JAWS, and that helped. But it's still, a bit of a struggle. But thought, well, maybe I could do maths, teach math in high school or something like that. So I toyed with that idea. I met some folks. I realized that's probably not for me. I went ahead and learned a bit more about the accounting field, and I thought, well, that's something that, if I can zoom in and see documents, I can read documents, at least I'm not driving out to factories and being around forklifts that might run you over or things like that. And so I went back to school. I, did the GMAT and got my master's in accounting. And about 2 months before I finished that degree, I got a call from an old employer, so we've got a really great opportunity for you. I said, well, you know, situations sort of changed, but it turned out to be the same career that I was doing before, and I am able to do it. It's maybe different, you know. I have to ask people questions like, hey, look for that hammer out of place, because I'm not going to notice it, but I'm, you know, doing the same career that I had before I started looking for all of these different things. I love the benefit of having gone back and gotten the accounting degree. So I think that taught me how to use that assistive technology to go out and do the things that I needed to do, you know, in an academic environment where it was a little less stressed than like making sure you can do your job. So, I went through, I studied, I was able to read textbooks and do my homework and all of these things that, you know, I feel like I learned to live with LHON through that experience of going back to school. And then it's really, you know, helped me in my career since then. So that's, I think, professionally, my story. Personally, my story's been interesting to hear about the running. I kind of picked that up. I had a lot of spare time initially because I wasn't doing, you know, my job for a while there, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I got into exercise and running and things like this, and you know, just threw myself at it, was able to, you know, start running 10Ks and things like this, and it was a great stress relief. I was kind of inactive and sedentary, and then to, you know, have this happen, I feel like, you know, there's just so many things about my life that I'm so much more positive now than I had before the diagnosis, that I'm oddly thankful for it in a way. So that's kind of my story.
Great. Thank you, Sean. The comment you said that now, after you've been affected, that there's things you're oddly thankful for, I think probably makes sense to some of the affecteds out there, because that is true. All right, our next speaker is Joe Burkett. He has been affected for about 2.5 years, and he is from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Hello. My story, similar, started summer of my 30th birthday, right around my 30th birthday. All along growing up, you know, late teens, early 20s, I kind of had there was a list called the 30 things to do before you turn 30. I had a bunch of things, you know, lost track of it for a while, and right around my 30th birthday, I'm like, I'm going to get this back out, start looking at the list and seeing some things to do, and started trying to cross some of them off. And on my 30th birthday, my plan was the Murtaugh list. A bunch of things. I'm too old for this stuff, but I'm going to do it one last time. And it's a Lethal Weapon reference, How I Met Your Mother reference, it's stuff I'm too old to do. And so I'm doing all this stupid stuff I'm too old to do. And a lot of things, one of the things that I was on my 30 under 30 list that was run a half marathon. I'd been a runner forever and just kind of did it a lot recreationally. And so I signed up for it before my 30th birthday and ran it in November, a couple months after my 30th birthday. And it's Louisville, Kentucky, home of horses, bourbon, and college basketball. So, of course, the half marathon is called the Urban Bourbon Half Marathon. So I go out and run this half marathon, really proud of my time, hit right on my goal. Across the finish line, they pull a tag off your bib, and here's bourbon. Okay. After that, then they say, we'll pull another one off, here's a beer. You're like, okay. And coincidentally, let's see, that was a Saturday. Thursday, I called in sick to work. Friday, I was sitting at work and I kind of was tired and held my head up and covered one eye and realized, I can't see anything anymore. So, like we were talking about the triggers earlier, I don't know if running a half marathon, then drinking bourbon and beer, and then going home and lighting a fireplace was my trigger, or I don't know, I've been going to bars that were smoking in my early 20s and nothing happened, so I don't know if that's coincidental or what, but so I started losing my vision. It was that Friday. Monday was Veterans Day. I was off work. I work for the federal government, Department of Veteran Affairs, the VA. And so I was off work, and my sister-in-law's mother works for an ophthalmologist, and my brother's a doctor, and he said, oh, you can't see out of your eye? Yeah, you should probably go see someone as soon as possible. That's not good. So they were able to say, just show up 8 a.m. at the doctor's office, we'll fit you in. Luckily, having good connections. And I turned into, if anybody's familiar with the TV show House, everybody's been through it, you're that patient. Every doctor there's looking at you, poking you, and doctor comes, I don't know, I specialize in the retina. This isn't retina, but we'll figure it out. And like I said, the optic neuritis, all those good things. And walk in, and the doctor has the Will's eye manual out, and the doctors are all reading the eye manual, textbook that they probably don't pull out very often. Gives you a lot of hope there. And luckily, I went through 5 blood tests. He had listed 5, and he's like, things from cat scratch fever to Lyme disease to cat scratch fever was a real thing. I thought it was just a song, but
Yeah.
and the 5th one he had on the list was LHON. We're like, what's that? He's like, you don't have it. I came across it not too long ago. You don't have it, but we're just gonna throwing it on there. We're going after everything. And the results start coming back, checking things off. No, you don't have Lyme disease. No, you don't have syphilis. No, you don't have cat scratch fever. Like, okay, well, the LHON test was the one that was the longest one to get back. They had to ship it away and get that phone call, I think it was Monday, about 3 o'clock at work, like, hey, can you come into the doctor's office tomorrow morning? Like, well, that's probably not a good thing. And it's like, well, maybe I don't have that last one, and maybe we're gonna just do a whole nother series of tests. And yeah, so got the bad news that next morning. So that was within 1 month of symptoms. So I was caught very early. And so that was in December, and within 2 weeks, we had managed to find Dr. Sadoun in California and made out to see him. And that crossed off one thing on my 30 under 30 list. I got to go see the Pacific Ocean for the first time. And so I'd kind of kept it secret that I was going through anything. I told my supervisor at work, like, hey, I got some stuff going on. I'm going to need to be taking some sick days here and there. And she was polite about it, didn't ask any questions, said, do what you need to do. I got you covered. And so I eventually finally told her, he's like, I think I'm going to have to tell some higher-ups what's going on. Is that okay? And so word starts spreading a little bit. And I had one of my doctors had sent me to the Kentucky Office for the Blind. And they were great because they're like, well, okay, what do you want to do for a living? What kind of career do you want? I was like, I have one. Like, well, what do you need help with? I want to be able to keep my job. I'm like, we don't have training in that. We can help you find a job, but we really don't know how to get you to keep your job. So they created a whole new program to get me to keep my job. And basically it was, what do you need at work? I'm like, what do you have? You want a CCTV? Sure. Walked out with one that day. They just, which one do you want? Walk out with it. So I took that and put that on my desk at work, and everybody at work's like, what's that? Oh, I'm on a special microfiche project at work. And so finally, it was April when I was finally legally blind, like to the point of legally blind. And so that's when I kind of started, the word really got around the office, and the higher ups in the office, they gave me that speech of, well, we can't really treat you any differently than anybody else here. You're gonna have to keep working and maintain production. Well, that's not what I wanted to hear. So kind of trying to figure out, and well, never really took time off work, just kept going in one day at a time, tried to do the job a little bit better each day. And well, I'm still there now, going on almost 10 years, and they haven't heard anything really negative yet, so I guess I'm doing a good job. So work actually I was already on a bus line. I already took a bus to work, so I kind of just keep riding the bus, and things kept going. And finally, I started having trouble getting home from work. It's easy. One bus comes by to get me to work. On the way home, you're in a bus little depot, and 5 buses would pull up at one time, and you're just standing there thinking, man, I hope one of these is not mine. And so the opportunity arose to work from home. So I jumped on that, and every morning I wake up, walk downstairs, log on my computer, work from home, have programs on I like to use the Windows magnifier. My vision's decent enough where I can use the basic Windows magnifier. I have 2 monitors, so I put the magnifier on one. It's putting an image up of what is on the other screen of where my mouse is. And so The one thing, problem with working from home, the social aspect of life, you really lose touch with, and you're not seeing people. It's great that you're not hearing the loud noise. You can control your environment. You can dimmers on the lights. You can control the noise, but you just lose social connections with people. Your text messages can only go so far, and instant messaging at work can only go so far with social interaction. So I'd played baseball in college, and that's been what I did, playing sports, and played through college, and just still had a competitive nature. And so I was trying to find something to do. I continued running from the half marathon. I just kept doing that, and those got a little harder each time. The vision gets a little worse. They get a little harder, and the long Saturday runs that the other panelists talking about, the long Saturday runs, everybody knows the rule, don't leave the blind guy. And so every now and then you start falling back far enough, you're like, all right, what direction am I headed? What street is this? All right, I can get home from here. Go on and go. And I'm not training for Boston. I'm not trying to get in the Paralympics or anything, but I'm just trying to stay fit, stay healthy, and just be active. And adaptive sports has really become a program that can reach out and meet new people, have social interaction, and just do things. And some of the sports that I've come across, beep baseball was the one that really, I saw some videos of it. I was like, I played baseball. This can't be that hard. I got to go try this. And so luckily, Louisville, Kentucky has a Metro Parks program. I just thought it was where you go play beer league softball and flag football when you're an ex-athlete reaching adulthood. And it turns out they had an adaptive sports and leisure program that doesn't get as much credit as it should. And they recently started a beep baseball program. If anybody's familiar with it, you're trying to hit a softball. It's a softball-shaped thing that beeps. And it's really hard to get the pin back in this. There we go. But the pitcher's throwing you this, and you're trying to hit it blindfolded, and you're trying to run to a buzzing base, and it's just a crazy sport, insane. And being an ex-baseball player, I am really bad at it. But it's just something you get out there. We're not really playing games yet. We're just kind of doing clinics and just getting out there with other people and diving into it and trying. I'm almost kind of like a coach to it almost now, trying to help other people. Just my 6 months of playing is much more advanced than a lot of people in the area have, and we only get a couple blind people out, but people don't realize, I think a lot of sighted people are scared to try these, and it's hard to get enough people out, and you're trying to, it's almost, a lot of the words people use as empathy for the blind, where you get them out there, put a blindfold on them, and say, come out and see what life is like with us. And we moved on to a new sport, goal ball. It's like a giant cat toy. And what you're doing is, it's like soccer goalies, 3 soccer goalies on a court, and you're rolling the ball back and forth at each other, and you blindfolded, lay down on the ground, and hope the ball hits you and doesn't get past you in a goal. You're put on a blindfold and just throwing this at each other, and you're just going based on the sound of the bells. And these 2 sports have just really helped me with outreach, social activities, and it's really just something to dive into and just keep me active and keep me fit. And it's just been a great program that I'm glad that the Metro Parks of Louisville has brought to me. And actually, not this week, the next week I'm going to my first goal ball tournament in Nashville, Tennessee. Don't have a team, going as a pool player. My cousin, she's been helping me out. She's a carrier, but no symptoms yet, and she's been coming to goal ball with me and just trying it, and she's really jumped into it and taken a lot of interest in it. And I think it's helping some of my cousins seeing me go through it. I'm the first one that's been affected, just seeing me go through it. Maybe this isn't so bad if I do end up being symptomatic. This isn't so bad, and they've experienced some activities that for the vision impaired. And she's going to drive me down there, and I'm just a pool player. Put me on a team, go play, and I hope it turns out great. But so yes, just say it's best advice I can give is just keep going every day. Try to do a little better at what you're doing, and just find something you like, and just find a passion, and just really stick to it, and just dive into it, and just keep going at what you're doing. Find something you like, and don't let anything get you down. Just things for everyone that's talked. Everything's worked out for everybody so far, and there's there's not really a bad story out here.
Great. All right, Joe, thank you.
Great, my turn, huh?
And I love the props, right? The big cat toy. That's I love it. No, it's awesome, and I'm sure Joe would be more than willing to have anyone that wants to come and check those things out and feel them and shake them around. Because if you're not exposed to those kind of things, you have no clue what they're all about. So, thank you for talking about those, Joe. Our next speaker is Matthew Prey. He has been affected for just about a year, and he is from Largo, Florida. So I'm going to turn it over to Matthew.
Okay. Good enough, huh? Everybody hear me all right? All right. I'm probably the least active out of all the people. I don't run. I don't know if any of you have seen me getting around this place. I'm lucky I can walk. So other than that, I've actually been dealing with this a lot longer, and my journey's a little different. My mother went blind 17 years ago. Back then is when they had no idea what it was. I mean, they did the spinal taps, and they had she had no idea. Her eyes went basically about the same time, within 2 months. There was no space from one to the other. It was within 2 months she went from driving to not, and basically no idea what was going on. Finally, after a lot of blood tests, they, back then they gave you a cane and a check and said, don't get hit as you're walking home here, basically. So, she, and after a short period, I dealt with her about I wasn't living with her at the time, and within a year or two, you're saying all the same things that you've all heard. Well, geez, it's been a year, shouldn't you be working? I see blind people all the time doing this and that. I mean, look on TV, Daredevil and all these other things. They're all doing it. Why can't you? Now I feel awful. But so, we had no idea what it was, symptoms or carriers or anything like that back then. There wasn't even real exact things like maybe I could get it, maybe I couldn't. I used to always make the joke, hopefully I've got an attractive wife and a good amount of rental properties by the time I'm 40, so when I go blind, I made it to 32, needless to say, and I don't know about the rental properties, but so, I dealt with my mother, and thank gosh, my wife Jen and my daughter Charlotte, who is 4, has also dealt with Grammy being blind, so everybody was quite used to. My mother's not quite as blind as I am. She's not walking into walls like I have been, so she's doing better than that. She doesn't use a cane to get around and didn't really take advantage of a lot of the services that they now offer, you know what I mean? So that was one thing I knew. It's been just about a year. I was diagnosed a year yesterday. And the reason I had started to have, November 2013, I'd started to have some issues, they thought it was stigmatism or something going on, and in my right eye, and by April, something like that, I started to get kind of a cloudy sea on one side, and I'd be squinting when I come home looking at my phone. My wife thought I'd been out tying one on most of the night, you know what I mean? I was getting in trouble for things I wasn't even doing at that point. And finally, I made my own eye doctor's appointment, which floored her. At that point, she knew something was wrong. I never make my own appointment. And I told her one eye was cloudy, and she goes, what do you mean one's cloudy? Shut that other one. And as soon as I did, everything went black, and I knew it, especially dealing with my mother. So I called her first thing, and she says, well, I said to her she says, well, when you can't see the eye chart on the other side of the room, you'll know. So I went to this doctor. They diagnosed me first thing. I self-diagnosed myself. It wasn't one of these like, oh, what is it or anything. It was pretty obvious. They did the MRI and everything to make sure it wasn't a tumor, but, praying for a tumor at that point. But they, it wasn't a tumor, needless to say. And so I had been working in Maine. My father and I had been selling modular and mobile homes. Thank you. And so I had working 50, 60 hours a week and, going right full tilt. I had a 4-year-old daughter at the time, and my wife working quite a bit as well, so it was quite a change, I can tell you that. I went from, I started, so I was diagnosed. We went down and saw Dr. Guy in basically right at the beginning of July. As soon as we found out, my wife got online and as much web research as humanly possible, and basically as soon as she found somebody that actually might know something, she had me right there in hand banging on the door until they let us in, so that was good. We my first winter being blind in Maine, 6'9" and blind in the snow is nothing anybody ever needs to repeat, let me tell you. Your white cane blends into everything, and it's just white as far as the eye could see. So I fell pretty much every time I came in and out of the house, and so we moved to Florida in March, and it has been great. Let me recommend it to anybody who lives in the Northeast and is blind or anywhere in snow. Go south. It is awful, let me tell you. So, I like to say the sunlight helps me see. Let me tell you, the heat helps me see. So you're not, So we've gone to Florida, and I tell you what, in Maine, every state, I guess, is different. In Maine, the Division for the Blind, when you go blind, you set yourself up and they do all these things, and they basically dress you like a crossing guard for ice road truckers. You have, they give you some ice cleats and a yellow vest and a light for your head and a cane or two, and off you go. There you go. I mean, it was the craziest thing. So, I go down to Florida, and there's computer training and classes and all this different stuff, and I was just amazed at the difference. Tell you what, though, ask any of those O&M people I wanted a cane like Scent of a Woman. That was one of my favorite movies beforehand, Al Pacino. I didn't realize I'd be the one living most of that life, but I wanted a black cane to get around with. I'll tell you what, that sends a chill up their spine if you don't ask for a white one. So I knew that one from a long time ago. I've learned my blind lessons here and there. My mother used to tell anecdotal stories about serving blueberries instead of peas at dinner, or sticking her fingers in the butter and all these things, and, those were anecdotal stories. Mine have gotten a little worse, unfortunately. We were at an airport the other day. I only tell one. I promise Maria, only one or two. So I was at an airport the other day, and there was, at airports they have those black trash cans with the gray flip lids, so I'm quite blind, and I was drinking a Pepsi, and my wife sits me somewhere to try to, do whatever and go, stay here and don't move. So I'm sure you all have experienced that. And so I sit down and I finish my Pepsi, and I reach over and I see the black trash can at the end of the bench, and I just start reaching and pushing it into this. And all of a sudden I hear my wife go, no, 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 no. And it's this woman pulls her hood off the top of her head, and I've been shoving a soda can into the side of her face for the past few minutes. So, yeah. So.
That is the funniest thing.
So the first year of being blind has gone rather differently, let me tell you. So thank gosh I have a 4-year-old who can read expiration dates and knows what the time numbers are, and she's pretty good. The other day at a restaurant, I couldn't tell that the waitress was a female. She had a real lower male sounding androgynous voice. And I, being in the deep south, was like, yes sir, no sir, thank you sir, I'd like a Pepsi sir, please, thank you sir. Charlotte comes back after using the bathroom, and we get done ordering, and I get done ordering my meal before they order, and she goes, Daddy, it's a girl, right in front of her. Oh my gosh. No filter. I turned 6 shades of tomato, and I just didn't even know what to do. Finally, my wife's like, and I'll have eggs on that, thanks. And so life's a little tough, you get used to things as you go. It's nice having family by far. I mean, I've heard that from a few other people up here. It's definitely one of the things that keeps me getting out of bed each day. I don't know how, it definitely keeps me moving. I walk my daughter to school. I basically, when they take you to these Division for the Blind things, and they're like, well, do you want to learn, laundry and dishwashing, all these things. My wife's like, I thought my wife was going to pass out laughing. She's like, he didn't do those things before. What are you going to teach him now? Yeah. So, I'm basically learning from scratch. But all in all, I walk my daughter to school and then spend a half an hour trying to find my way home from school. But it's all kind of a struggle as you go, and you're learning as you go. So my biggest thing is take advantage of every aspect possible. I watched somebody not take advantage of everything going with going blind, and how that can be. And I'm not saying my mother's not doing well, but she's been 17 years now. I didn't wait very long. I need to get out of that house. I stopped driving in September. I bought an electric scooter 2 days later. As long as I could see the white line and the green grass, I figured I could make it. A few cones and potholes and everything else later, but we made it, and that's in Maine, by the way, not down in Florida. So now that, it's more just every day's a struggle, and you just keep trying to push yourself to do more. Once you realize that the toothpaste goes on your teeth instead of on the toothbrush and things like that, it's just a lot easier. One thing I learned more than anything else, if you can't be productive, you might as well stay attractive. So other than that, I think that's about all I got here, so.
Oh, Matthew, thank you. Oh, funniest story ever. That was my best one. I keep repeating it to people that I know, and I laugh harder, and they're going, yeah, okay. So anyway, and Matthew, you're super good looking coming from a blind girl.
Yes,
You are attractive. I'm just saying, you are attractive. Anyway, those are our 3 last panel members for this morning, and we do have some time, I think, to ask any questions that you might have. So, anybody have anything?
Besides Sean, I was just wondering what Joe and Matt's careers are. Sean told us, and you stayed. And what kind of an engineer are you, Sean?
Oh, I'm in industrial engineering.
I work for the federal government in the Department of Veteran Affairs doing disability compensation. So it's, service-connected disabilities for veterans. I personally am not a veteran, but they do have some great disability options that I wish I could get.
This is going to sound awful. I'm retired recently here. I don't know how else to say that, you know? Like, I work 60 hours a week, and by the time I couldn't see the computer anymore, my biggest thing, I was always a salesperson, so I could read people. You know, now I can't tell if they're staring off into space or walking out of the room anymore, so it was... So that kind of went out the window. I think I've got the state of Florida convinced to pay for me to take law school, so I think that's what my next goal is. So down, whatever, take advantage of it all, I say. So, I mean, if they're going to pay for it. So that's my plan anyways. I figured I'd go get hired at the ADA's office or the district attorney. I mean, they're not ADA violation, they don't hire you, so you might as well at that point, I figured. So right now, I'm a housewife and taking care of my daughter, which neither career I enjoy. I mean, I do enjoy it, but so yeah, I'm kind of living in Florida retired right now, I guess. Probably not what you want to hear, but.
This question is for Joe. Joe, my son is on the Long Island Bombers beatball team, and my question to you is, what team are you on?
Let's see how the best way to put this. State of Kentucky currently does not have a team. Would love to be on a team. I just became introduced this last August, September, so it's coming along. But the state of Kentucky recently hosted a beat baseball tournament, Memorial Day weekend, and did not provide a team from the state of Kentucky in it, which no comment on that, but I had an option to possibly go up to Indianapolis and join a team. There's a lot going on with short notice, and hopefully next year I'll be on a Kentucky team or an Indianapolis team.
Great.
I just want to say, yes, you should play beatball. I played for the Boston Renegades, and it was fantastic. Where you start running towards the base, and when you hit it, you fall on your ass. And all the sighted people are laughing their asses off. But yeah, I really recommend the sports. That was really nice.
It's funny. I'm 32, and the other blind guy I've been playing beatball and goalball with, he's blind from birth, so we're kind of bouncing things back and forth off each other. And he didn't know how old I was, and we're playing. And he's like, he keeps referring to, he played through the Indiana School for the Blind. He kept referring to beatball and goalball as a young man's game. I'm like, man, I'm 32. I do not bounce back up as quick as I used to, and you're getting pelted by this giant ball being chucked at you, and it's so. Like I said, when I started losing my vision at 30, I kind of thought of it as I'm forever going to be 30. You know, when I look in the mirror, I'm still 30, and I just kind of convinced myself that, you know, your brain works in a weird way, so the things I remember, they're still that way from when I first started losing my vision. And so I'm trying to physically act that way on top of it. And so it might be a young man's game, but I'm going to try to keep playing as long as I can until I break down even more than I already am.
Great. Anybody else?
This is just for anybody about like going to the store and buying things, whether it just be like a grocery store or just going anywhere to buy something. How do you identify like price tags or anything that says, like, say you confuse a 1 for a 7 and you're suddenly buying something that is $10 and the next thing you know you're at the cash register and they're asking you for a 70.
I know they make a machine. I've seen it actually at the Division of Blind. It showed it to me the other day. That's actually like a scanner for like labels and stuff like that you can get prices. You have to update it like once a week, and most of the major chains and a lot of the other stores are in it. I don't know how much something like that is. Other than that, I always end up shopping with somebody else. I mean, that's the biggest, easiest thing, just because I can't see what's on the shelves either. I mean, I could spend 7 hours in a grocery store and only get a basket full. So it's, that's basically the way I've gone with it, is make sure I have somebody to go with.
Okay.
Other than that, but-
Yeah, I usually, most of the time I take, my parents live close to me. I either have one of them drive me to the store or my wife will go with me. But I have the Walmart neighborhood market by my house memorized, and my diet consists of the same things every day over and over. And so I can go through the store, I can get my lunch meat, my bread, my peanut butter, my Nutty Bars, and my cherry Coke, and I can survive on that. And prices don't usually vary too much. I might get like Nutty Bars when I go with my mom. She'll point out whether the big box or the 2 small boxes or the big box, which one's the better deal. 50 cents here or there doesn't really, I don't really worry too much about that. I'm just glad I can get to the store and survive on my own if I had to.
So I use the Ideal Magnifier app on my phone. You know, it doesn't work, like sometimes like there's prices way up high, you know, you can't get up with your technology to see it. And when I first started having the vision loss, the hardest thing to do is to ask for help. And so you know, if it's something way out of the way, you know, just going to a clerk and saying, like, I'm not really sure if that's a 1 or a 7, can you help me out? You know, even in like restaurants, it's really hard to see the menu when they've got it posted up behind, you know, if they can have like a printed menu and things like that, but just like no longer shy about asking for help and saying, look, I don't see very well, can you, you know, help me out, so.
Anybody else?
One more here. This actually isn't really a question, it's more of a comment that I want to make to all 6 of you gentlemen that have been up there today. The stories that you've just shared today are truly an inspiration, and your outlook on life is truly remarkable. The ones that are fathers, just starting out young, I think everybody in this room should really be inspired by what they've heard today.
Is there anybody else?
I guess since that one wasn't a question, I want to supplement my original because I'm going to get in a lot of trouble if I don't like add one more element to my story. But I had just been married maybe a year and a half when this happened, and my wife has been an incredible support throughout all of that. And if I didn't mention that, that might have been a problem. So.
Ditto. Yeah, Joe, you want to say something? Oh, good move, good move, good move. And as
Maria?
I've said, there's behind every good man, it's a good woman. See, it's right here. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say also that grocery stores, one, always ask for somebody to take you around. Usually the kid that they give you to take you around is so happy to get out of bagging and pushing the cart. So that's always good. Also, a lot of grocery stores now, you can order online and then just have your have your wife pick up groceries or something on the way home. So if you can get on the computer and you know what you want, you can usually just kind of check off everything on the computer. So that's something else that you can, do. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Great. Is there any more?
This isn't a question, I'm Joe's mother, but he's been known to ride home from the grocery store with a gallon of milk.
Bikes are not.
And I think that's pretty good.
A bike will take you a long way. It's slow and steady, and if someone's willing to ride with you, you can. Last weekend I did a 25-mile bike ride, just tailing my uncle and riding down River Road on a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, just tailing him to get as close to his back wheel as you can. It's like a roller coaster ride, and yeah, don't let anything. You want to go ride a bike? Get on your bike. What's worse? You're gonna fall down. Get back up. I wrecked my bike when I could see, so it doesn't really bother me. If you want to do something, go do it.
That's great. Any more? Someone help us out here. Are we done? All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for your great questions. And again, I want to thank my second panel for sharing their stories and inspiring everybody. And I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.